Going on. Yep.
Hi, I'm Pastor Kathy, and I have a cameraman today. I'm so excited. Brad is here and letting me use his camera to do my recording for today. So thank you, Brad. And now he's going to walk away and not be bored. No, it's fine. We are reading through Genesis with commentary. We're up to Genesis chapter 31. Yesterday we were hearing about Jacob had gone to his uncle in Haran, had wanted to marry Rachel, ended up marrying Leah and Rachel wasn't having children, so she gave her maidservant for a second wife, secondary wife, a third wife. And then Leah was like, well, I'm not having enough children. She'd already had 5 or 6. So she gave her maidservant. So now Jacob has 4 wives, and I think we're up to 10 or 11 kids, which were named after what they sounded like. So we're up to chapter 31. And also yesterday, Jacob was like, so what are my wages? And so he was going to, anything speckled or spotted would be his, any black lamb would be his. So Laban took all of the ones that were speckled and black away, so that all of the ones that Jacob is working with are white. But then he put sticks with stripes and speckles on them, trying to do this. So chapter 31. Now Jacob heard that the sons of Laban were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's. He has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father. And Jacob saw that Laban did not regard him as favorably as he did before. So Jacob is accumulating large wealth, mostly herds, flocks, but a lot of animals, as well as a whole bunch of children. And then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your ancestors and to your kindred, and I will be with you. So many verses back, God had said to Abraham, go to this new land and I'll go with you. And then to Abraham's son Isaac, get a wife from your kindred, but I promise you this land. And then there was Esau and Jacob was also received the promise from God, I'm giving you this land. So now God is telling him it's time to go back. And he had also said to Jacob on the way out, Jacob had encountered God, and he named the place Bethel, the house of God. So now God has come to him and said, go back to the land of your ancestors, which is interesting because they've been living there as aliens in the land, but now ancestors, meaning Abraham and Isaac, to their land. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field where his flock was, and he said to them, I see that your father does not regard me as favorably as he did before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times, but God did not permit him to harm me. If he said, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the flock bore speckled. And if he said, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock bore striped. This God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. So he's acknowledging that it is God who got his wealth, that he's grown this large flock because of the grace of God. Even though he tried the thing with the sticks, really, in the end, it's God. Verse 10. During the meeting of the flock, I once had a dream in which I looked up and saw that the male goats had leaped upon the flock, were striped, speckled, and mottled. Then the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. And he said, look up and see that all the goats that leap on the flock are striped, speckled, and mottled, for I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now leave this land at once and return to the land of your birth. Then Rachel and Leah answered him. So Jacob is telling the story to his 2 primary wives. This is what happened, that your father kept changing my wages, but God has made my flocks grow and grow. Then Rachel and Leah answered him, is there any portion or inheritance left to us in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as foreigners? For he has sold us, and he has been using up the money given for us. All the property that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, do whatever God has said to you. So it is normal and customary at that time to pay a bride price, because if you go and you take the bride from the family, now that bride, that woman, is no longer able to contribute to the family. She's no longer able to go haul water or watch the sheep or do anything else. So a bride price would be paid. And he paid the bride price for each of them. He worked 7 years. So all of the work that he did during those 14 years, anything that came, any of the flocks that came, all belonged to Laban. Then after he had worked those 14 years, then they started the deal like, okay, what are my wages? What do I earn? And he started growing his flocks. So somehow Laban, meanwhile, has not been growing his flocks and not been taking care and has been losing his things. When you give the bride price, the bride technically will then leave the family, but often the family will give the bride part of that bride price as sort of her own little security or egg, nest egg for her to live on and to have. All the property that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, do whatever God said to you. So if you've taken anything from our father, which may or may not be the case, it belongs to us because we're part of you. So it benefits our kids, so we're okay with it, whatever. Verse 17, so Jacob arose and set his children and his wives on camels, and he drove away all his livestock, all the property that he had gained, the livestock in his possession that he had acquired in Paddan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. So he packed everything up and hit the road. Now, hitting the road and packing everything up when you've got huge herds of livestock, they're not going to move very fast. And 4 wives and I think 10 children. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. We're not sure what exactly that means. Probably idols, but if they're following, Jacob is following the God of Isaac, his father, and Abraham, his grandfather. Rachel maybe not so much, and Laban not so much. For whatever reason, she took some of this property that belonged to Laban. And Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean in that he did not tell him that he intended to flee. So he fled with all that he had. Starting out, he crossed the Euphrates and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. So think Fertile Crescent, that the Fertile Crescent runs from kind of Babylon, Iran, Iraq, and across over to Israel. So they were over here toward the top, and now they're heading over toward Israel, across the Euphrates, heading west and then south. On the 3rd day, this is verse 22, on the 3rd day Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he took his kinsfolk with him and pursued him for 7 days until he caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. But God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night and said to him, take heed that you say not a word to Jacob, either good or bad. So Laban went after him, but before he got a chance to meet him, God says, be careful. Verse 25, Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsfolk camped in the hill country of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, what have you done? You have deceived me and carried away my daughters like captives of the sword. Why did you flee secretly and deceive me and not tell me? I would have sent you away with mirth and songs, with tambourine and lyre. I would have thrown a party. We would have sent you away properly with a feast and said goodbye. And why did you not permit me to kiss my sons and my daughters farewell? Grandsons in this case, but still considered his sons and daughters. What you have done is foolish. It is in my power to do you harm. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, take heed that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad. Even though you had to go because you longed greatly for your father's house, why did you steal my gods? Okay, you want to leave. You have the right to leave. You're allowed to go. You can take all that you have, your wives and all your flocks and even my grandchildren. You have the right to leave and do all that. But you took some of my stuff. Jacob answered Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force." Even though he's now been married to them and has many children by them, somehow he thinks that Laban's going to keep his daughters from leaving. "But anyone with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of our kinsfolk, point out what I have that is yours and take it." Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods. So basically everything that he has is his, except for Rachel took something of Laban's, which were probably idols. Who knows why she took them or what exactly they were, but Rachel did take them, because none of these people are perfect. None of the patriarchs and matriarchs of the faith were any more perfect than the rest of us. They're very human. Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods. Verse 33, so Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two maids, and he did not find them. So as we've said before, when you have 4 wives, each of them have their own tent, and small children would be with them as well. And Jacob apparently had his own tent as well. And when he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's, now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. Laban felt all about in the tent, but he did not find them. And she said to her father, "Let not my lord be angry that I cannot rise before you, for the way of women is upon me." So he searched, but he did not find the household gods. So Rachel took them, then she sat on them, and then she said, "I'm on my period and I can't stand up right now." Then Jacob became angry and upbraided Laban. Jacob said to Laban, "What is my offense? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? Although you have felt all about through all my goods, what have you found of your household goods? Set it here before my kinsfolk and your kinsfolk, so that they may decide between us two. These 20 years I've been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried, and I have not eaten the rams of your flocks. That which was torn by wild beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself. Of my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. It was like this with me. By day the heat consumed me, and the cold by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God saw my affliction and the labor of my hands and rebuked you last night." So he worked 7 years for Leah, 7 years for Rachel, and then another 6 years, get my math right, just to acquire the flock. And Laban Laban and Jacob are both kind of tricky, deceitful people. Then Laban, at verse 43, then Laban answered and said to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine." Except for Jacob worked for them, and those were his wages. Oh no, this is mine. They're mine, mine, mine. "But what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or about their children whom they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar, which was a thing that people would do when they had a covenant, a treaty, an arrangement, that they would set up, take a stone, make it a pillar, make it vertical. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. And Jacob said to his kinsfolk, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a heap. And they ate there by the heap. So 4 wives, 10 children, but there's probably also slaves, servants, people that are working for him, helping with the sheep, there's just this massive number of people and our kinsfolk. And then when you have a covenant or a treaty, how do you sanctify it? You eat together, because something about eating together brings people together. they gathered stones. They took the stones and made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jegar-sahadutha, but Jacob called it Gilead, which is where the place name Gilead came from, was this heap. But basically it's in Old Hebrew and Aramaic, which is sort of a variant of Hebrew, but not that everybody spoke in. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today." Therefore he called it Gilead, and the pillar Mizpah. So this is like a boundary marker. This side is for Laban, this side is for Jacob. It's also a memorial that we made a covenant, we made a treaty. This is the agreement, this is where we are. Laban said, let's see here, therefore, for he said, "The Lord watch between you and me, when we are absent one from another." And I know of a group that uses this as kind of a blessing back and forth between them. The Lord watch between you and me while we are absent one from another, which is a beautiful way of putting it. But in this original context, it wasn't that beautiful. This was I may not be with you, but the Lord is going to be keeping an eye on you, so you better be good. The Lord watch. If you ill-treat my daughters, or if you take wives in addition to my daughters, though no one else is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me. So I do like it as a blessing that may the Lord watch between us. But in this original context, it was like, okay, I may not be with you, but you better do right by my daughters. You better not take any more wives. Then Laban, verse 51, then Laban said to Jacob, "See this heap and see this pillar, which I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness, that I will not pass beyond this heap to you, and you will not pass beyond this heap and this pillar to me for harm. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor and the God of their father judge between us." So it's a covenant, it's a treaty, it's a boundary, it's an agreement, it's all of the above with God as the witness. So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac, and Jacob offered a sacrifice on the height and called his kinsfolk to eat bread. And they ate bread and tarried all night in the hill country. So they made the agreement. They placed the pillar and the heap of stones as witnesses. They called on God as witnesses, and then they ate together. Early in the morning, Laban rose up and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he departed and returned home. Chapter 32. Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp." So he called that place Mahanaim. So I was going to do all of chapter 32, but I think I've already been going a while. Oh yeah, let's do 32. Verse 3, Jacob sent messengers before him to his brother Esau in the land, and the land of Seir and the country of Edom. Edom, remember, is another name for Esau because red. So he's in the country, in Esau's country, instructing them, "Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob, I have lived with Laban as an alien and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male and female slaves, and I have sent to tell my lord in order that I may find favor in your sight." So Jacob's been gone for 20 years, has not seen his brother for 20 years. And when he left, his brother wanted to kill him for taking his blessing and after tricking him out of his birthright. So now we're trying some diplomacy and we're trying to do some appeasement. The messengers returned to Jacob saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and herds and camels into 2 companies, thinking, if Esau comes to the one company and destroys it, then the company that is left will escape. Because Jacob is not an army. He's literally 4 wives, a bunch of children, and herds and flocks, but he's dividing them up so that if Esau comes and destroys at least half of them, maybe would not be destroyed. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, and I will do you good. I am not worthy of the least of all the steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become 2 companies. So he is east of the Jordan, getting ready to cross over the Jordan into the west, into the land of Canaan. Deliver me, please, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I am afraid of him. He may come and kill us all, the mothers with the children. Yet you have said, I will surely do you good, and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted because of their number. So he's reminding God, you told me to go back, and I'm going back. And you said that you will bless me and make me so fruitful that we can't even count all of the descendants. So I'm taking you up on your word, and I'm asking you to protect me from my brother. So he spent that night there, and from what he had with him, he took a present for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels and their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. So when you have a herd, you tend to eat the males because you don't need to have as many males as females. You need the females to have more babies, and then you eat the males because one male can take care of quite a few. So we've got female goats, ewes are the female sheep, milch camels, so female camels and their colts, 40 cows, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. These he delivered into the hand of his servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, so little individual, here's the sheep, here's the goats, here's the camels, here's the cows. Pass on ahead of me. And he said to his servants, pass on ahead of me, and put a space between drove and drove. He instructed the foremost, when Esau my brother meets you and asks you, to whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose are these ahead of you? Then you shall say, they belong to your servant Jacob, and they are a present sent to my lord Esau, and moreover he is behind us. So drive them ahead of you, and when Esau asks, tell him it's a present from Jacob to Esau. So diplomacy and appeasement. He likewise instructed the second and the third and all who followed the droves. You shall say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and you shall say, moreover, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he thought, I may appease him with the present that goes ahead of me, and afterwards I shall see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So the present passed on ahead of him, and he himself spent that night in the camp. So he's getting ready to go across the Jordan, and he's sending a present to Esau, a flock of sheep, a flock of rams, of goats, a flock of camels, a flock of oxen. And we'll hear that he also sends all of the mothers and their children ahead as well. But first, he's going to spend a night camping next to the Jordan. That same night, he got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maids, and his 11 children, and I thought there was 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and likewise everything that he had. So he sent them all on across. The ford is a shallow place where they could walk across. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. What man came and wrestled? When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go, for the day is breaking. That is, the man that he's wrestling with said, let me go. And Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. Then the man said, you shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans and have prevailed. So He has wrestled with God. And if you've ever wrestled with God, you're in good company. And there are lots of times when we're not so sure that we like how things are going, and we can get very mad at God, and we can really wrestle with whatever it is that God has told us to do or shown us. In this case, go back to your country, and now he's coming face to face with Esau, and he's really wrestling with this whole situation. And God is saying you should no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. So when you hear of the country of Israel or the Israelites, it's because they're all descended from Jacob, who became Israel, who wrestled with God. So instead of a conniver, you're now a wrestler, and you prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved. The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the thigh muscle that is on the hip socket, because he struck Jacob on the hip socket at the thigh muscle. So tomorrow we'll talk about when Jacob actually goes to meet his brother Esau after being 20 years apart, and how whether or not Esau is happy with all of the presents that Jacob is sending him. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace, serve the Lord. And my cameraman is left, so I'm going to have to get up and turn it off myself, which is fine. But have a great day.